RWBY Volume 5. Much like the rest of the volumes, it's full of callbacks to past episodes, and foreshadowing from all the way back to even Volume 1 is seen throughout Volume 5. And a lot of characters and events are based on fairy tales or other random stories. So, here's hopefully all of the foreshadowing and references for RWBY Volume 5. In Chapter 1, Leonardo Lionheart finishes his meetup with Team Ranger and Crow, and after they all leave, Leo gets a call from Arthur Watts. This hologram W could barely be seen in Volume 3, Chapter 3, when Cinder is rigging the Vital Festival matchups. This reveals that Arthur Watts was behind the Black Queen virus that was partially responsible for the fall of Beacon. And since Watts was apparently a scientist in his past, he must have used his scientific knowledge to be able to create a virus. Am I pretty close?
Technically, I was also a doctor, but I must say the rest was spot on.
Later on, Yang is sitting in a convenience store called Just Right when a bandit eventually delivers this wonderful line.
Seriously, not too bulky, not too lean, you're...
Just right. Yep.
This is obviously a reference to Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Yang isn't too muscular, she's also not too skinny. She's just right. As an additional minor reference, the bandit decides to reach for Yang's hair. And as we all know, Yang doesn't really like to get her hair cut. So Yang knocks the porridge out of him. Moving on to the end of Chapter 2, Adam, Taurus, and Hazel meet with Sienna Khan to discuss Adam's plan to attack Haven Academy with the White Fang. Although Sienna Khan was mentioned throughout Volume 4, this is the first time she's had an appearance on screen. The word Sienna refers to a reddish shade of brown, while Khan translates to king. Besides that, the name is a reference to Shere Khan from the Jungle Book. And there is also another relation between the name of Gira Belladonna and Bagheera. Spoiler alert, Shere Khan doesn't get what he wants in that story either. In Chapter 3, Oscar and the rest of the party are gathered together, discussing the fact that Oscar has combined souls with Ozpin. After a moment, Ozpin mentions that he's sorry for everything that has happened to his students, and that it's all his fault. This leads to a callback to Volume 1, when Ozpin says,
I've made more mistakes than any man, woman, and child on this planet.
And I wasn't exaggerating.
There is a little bit more to the situation, but we'll come back for it. During Chapter 4, Team Ranger is explaining semblance to Oscar, and at one point, Nora mentions how she came to unlock her semblance.
Oh, struck by lightning, didn't die. Crazy Thursday.
It's been known up to this point that Nora is based off of Thor, the god of thunder. So it's just a short little line referencing the relation of Thursday to Thor's Day. Moving on to Chapter 5, RWBY walks in on Oscar during training, and before RWBY leaves, Oscar asks her how she could possibly stay so calm. RWBY explains how the loss of her friends at Beacon has taught her how to push on, knowing that it's what they would have wanted. RWBY finishes with a quote from the late Monty Ohm, "Keep moving forward." This tribute shows Rooster Teeth's dedication to the love they felt for the show's creator, and how they have to keep moving forward too. Hats off to you, Rooster Teeth, for paying respects to a man who truly deserves it.
I know they would have kept fighting too, no matter how dangerous it was. So that's what I choose to do. To keep moving forward.
On the opposite side of the emotional spectrum, we have Adam speaking to Corsic and Fennec Ulbane about his feelings towards the Belladonnas, as he throws a tantrum about his desire for the death of Blake's family. More specifically, he uses these words.
But not before you've slaughtered her family. I have a promise to keep.
This is referring to the scene in Volume 3, Chapter 11, where Adam says that he will not rest until he has destroyed everything that Blake loves. There is a cleverly hidden reference within Chapter 6, while Crow is searching for huntsmen to recruit for his team. As the camera pans over the mission boards, the name Carolyn Teal can be seen for a brief moment. The name comes from Agent Carolina, a bluish-green brawling badass from another Rooster Teeth show, Red vs. Blue. Surprisingly, the last name Teal refers to the blue-green color of Agent Carolina's armor. Getting back to Ruby and friends at the house in Mistral, Ozpin is revealing his intentions with turning Crow and Raven into birds. He admits that the amount of magic used to accomplish this was a minuscule amount, and he sacrificed a great deal of magic centuries ago to 4 young women, who would become the 4 maidens. This tale is first mentioned in World of Remnant: The 4 Maidens. Ozpin's confession proves that he was the same wizard from this old fairy tale, and is responsible for the creation of the original maidens. While we're on the subject, it's worth noting that Leonardo Lionheart is a character that is based off of the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz. And you can hopefully see the relation between Ozpin and that movie title as well. At this point, it's also worth mentioning that the resurrection of Ozpin was foreshadowed in Volume 1, Chapter 3. After being asked about her book, Blake says that it's about a man with 2 souls, each fighting for control over his body. Here's a hint, that's Ozpin and Oscar. The only reference in Chapter 8 comes from the scene when Ruby and Yang are sitting together outside of the house, and Weiss comes out with coffee. Ruby refuses the coffee at first, but Weiss assures her that she put in blasphemous amounts of cream and sugar. This refers to Volume 1, Chapter 10, when Weiss gives Ruby her coffee after she passes out while studying.
How do you take your coffee?
I don't.
Answer the question.
Cream and 5 sugars.
Chapter 9 shows Vernal asking Raven about if Salem will let the tribe run free after the attack on Haven. Raven responds by telling Vernal that Salem only uses people until they are no longer useful. Just so I don't need to refer to this scene later, Lionheart exhausts his usefulness in Chapter 14, and Salem does what's necessary. As a small reference at the start of Chapter 10, Ozpin responds to Crow's comment about their current situation.
Things aren't looking good, Oz.
Ever the optimist.
This line was first provided by Crow at the end of World of Remnant: Vacuo.
You know, Oz would always say that the 4 kingdoms were a representation of what mankind is capable of when working together. Ever the optimist.
Well, in case you haven't finished Volume 5, here comes a spoiler. Chapter 11 ends with Weiss being impaled and supposedly killed by Cinder. The only potential foreshadowing for this moment was from Volume 2, Chapter 1, when the food fight scene gets a little bit too real. During the battle at Haven in Chapter 12, Hazel goes berserk over the realization that Ozpin has returned. In a fit of rage, he infuses dust crystals directly into his body. This type of dust usage was initially revealed in World of Remnant: Dust, when it is stated that people can use dust in weapons and clothing or by fusing it directly with their own bodies. There is also a little reference to Volume 3, Chapter 12, when Ozpin uses this jabbing cane attack on Hazel. After Hazel is knocked out of the building in Chapter 13, we see Adam's plan falling apart, and Hazel shares a line with Adam from Chapter 2, but now the roles are reversed.
This was my business, not yours.
This is your business, not mine.
At the end of this chapter, it's revealed that Raven is the real Spring Maiden, and her eyes glow to prove it. Throughout the volume, Raven has managed to hide her powers by wearing her helmet while Vernal was pretending to be the one using magic. Either that, or everyone has been turned away while the Maiden's powers were active. This is the reason Raven asks Vernal to bring her helmet when Cinder's team arrives. Finally, at the end of the road, Yang is confronting Raven about the previous Spring Maiden. Yang can see it in her mother's eyes that she killed the last Spring Maiden, and that according to Raven, it was out of mercy. Yang follows later with the line, "Did you kill her, too?" This her could possibly refer to Summer Rose, since she lost her life on a mission and Raven and Summer were on the same team back at Beacon, but there's no way to be sure about this one. Well, thanks for watching. If you have any major references from Volume 5 that I most likely missed, be sure to leave a comment. Or if you want to see another type of analysis, let me know. I'd like to point out that this video was inspired by another RWBY references creator, Eruption Fang. If you feel so inclined, be sure to check him out. He does a fantastic job on all of his content. Anyway, feel free to share this video with your friends, subscribe for what is currently random content, and thank you so much again for watching.